Today I'm going to talk a bit about setting up alerts for the front porch. I'm Blake, a professional innovator and designer in pursuit of the invisible smart home.
Water leak alert.
And a way that you can tell when somebody's arriving, somebody's leaving, when somebody arrives and doesn't come in. And I'm also going to talk about the different alerts. I'm going to set up a couple motion sensors, and I already have a door sensor. And I'm going to position them in such a way and set up some automation so I can tell the difference between somebody coming and going. And then I'm going to use a couple lamp modules with a standard night light to use for the notifications. But before I get to setting that up and demonstrating it, I'm just going to talk a bit about the different alerts. The smart home is still a bit of a wild west, and there's not a lot of standards and best practices, but I'm making up a best practice for alerts, similar to best practices I made up for our leak sensors and water valve. There's yellow, orange, and red alerts. Let's start with yellow. Yellow alerts are something that you can ignore, and sometimes you'll notice and sometimes you won't. It's not that important. You don't have to take action. Orange alerts are, mostly you have to take some kind of action, but there's no emergency. And then, of course, red alerts are, you have to take action and as quickly as possible. Smoke alarm, somebody's breaking into your home. So, as an example, a yellow alert would be somebody on the front porch. Could be a delivery person or the mail arriving, and you might get a subtle alert, and we're going to set this to to come on and turn on the night light. You'll hear it click, and if it's dark, you might see the light come on, and that'll be a subtle alert. You're having your breakfast, and you hear a click. You look over, the light's on, and then you say, okay, so I know that's the. I was expecting a delivery from Amazon. I don't have to do anything, but at least you were alerted. You might set up a different alert if it's after midnight. You might have an orange alert, and maybe not notify you, but you might have the outside security lights come on, just to discourage any trouble that you might have from that. Then of course a red alert might be you're out of town and you'd want to get a notification to your phone, perhaps put the siren on and security lights on. Now let's get to setting this up. I already have a door sensor here, so I know when the door opens and closes. And I've added a couple motion sensors there. There's a third reality motion sensor up there. I found those nice and inexpensive, but very good quality. And this is an old SmartThings. So I've set this up so that when you approach the home, first you activate the SmartThings leak sensor, and then as you're walking, you activate the third reality sensor. So I know the difference between somebody approaching from that way or somebody approaching from this way. Of course, it would just be the one sensor, and I might set that up for a red alert type situation when I'm not home. I should be knowing if somebody comes in. And of course, I know when somebody opens or closes the door. So as a simple example, I could set the system to alert me when, during the day, to alert me when somebody arrives, but not alert me when somebody leaves the house. Alright, so I've set up 3 of these lamp outlets on the main level of my home. My new home in Canada. So there's going to be lots of updating in terms of smart home stuff. And the idea is, so here's one in the laundry room, and the last one I showed you was in the living room, and I have one here in the family room. So just about anywhere that you're relaxing in the main level, you'll hear here, and if you're in the right position, you'll see it. So they make a a definite click, so you can hear that in most places. I guess if you had the TV too loud or music too loud, you might not hear it. But again, I'm using these for yellow alerts, so if you sometimes miss it, it's not the end of the world. It's just nice to know that somebody's approached the porch, or somebody's at the door, that kind of thing. For the mechanical setup, you basically position one of the motion sensors ahead of the other, and in such a way that it'll pick up somebody when they walk on the porch. You don't want it picking up shadows from the sun and leaves blowing or animals off the porch. So for most of my sensors, they have a pretty wide area. I'll kind of tuck them in, kind of pointing partially to the wall a bit until I kind of tune them in position so that they only pick up somebody walking by. And same for the second sensor. Mine happens to be maybe a couple meters apart. So you activate the first, and then you activate the second if you're walking towards the house, and then the opposite, of course, if you're walking away from the house. And I'm fortunate in both cases with these sensors. They're kind of undercover. And I did this in a previous video where it was outdoor sensors, and we used outdoor solar lights to kind of disguise the sensor and position them and kind of waterproof them. So you position those two, and then you just take a standard lamp module once it's paired to your system, and you just add I just bought these night lights, and I just covered up the light sensor, so when this is on, the light is always on. And these things have a very noticeable audible click when they go off and on, so you'll notice them when they click. So I'll just show you the automation here in SmartThings. So I've grouped the alerts into a room called alerts, and I've got the 3 different alerts. And I've put the different motion sensors in a room called motion. That helps me organize it. And let's just show you one of the automations here. SmartThings and other systems have, so I have this routine called motion porch, motion sensor detected. And then it uses the first motion sensor as a precondition, and then if the second motion sensor goes off, it turns on the 3 alerts for 10 seconds and then turns them off. In conclusion, this is a simple way to come up with an alert system for somebody approaching your home or coming into your home. I just used a low-cost lamp module, Z-Wave or Wi-Fi will do it with my SmartThings system, and this was a low-cost nightlight device with a couple motion sensors of your choice that's compatible with your system, and then you just set up simple automation for your yellow, orange, and red alerts. Please like and subscribe, and look for my next video. Cheers.